Okay, welcome back, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, class. Can everyone hear me and, hear my voice and see the screen? Okay, great. I hope you had a good lunch and I hope you have, energy now to continue our second half. Right, so we have everyone from this morning. So we have two topics to complete. Like I said, I'm going through the most recent paper two, the January 2021 paper. I believe it's in January or June. I have to check back the folder. I'm going to pull apart the questions that are pertaining to the broad topics only, and we will work on those before we start the multiple choice practice. All right, always be sure to go through the Google Classroom after when you're doing your own studies to take down the necessary concise notes. If it's helpful, you can take it down. All right, so let's continue with water and the aquatic environment. Another broad topic which has a lot of parts. So they can ask you almost probably three-quarter of these. They could have it in separate parts, or they could just focus on one particular area and then break it down. So it's always advised to go through each component that you see here in detail so that you have enough information to answer any kind of past paper, any kind of question that they can bring. And always look through the booklet, the past paper booklet that I have, also the individual recent papers, just to go into those topics so you see how it is worded. Most questions, they ask you almost the same thing repeatedly, they just word it differently. All right, so let's continue. All right, so we have 10 people now. All right. So water and the aquatic environment. Now, first to begin, you have to know the uses of water. Remember, water is 70% of your body and about 70% of the earth. So the uses will be the main one for survival. You need it for your homes in terms of cleaning. You need it to grow crops. You need it to generate electricity. All right. So you also have to know ways to conserve it as well to prevent wastage of water, which would simply be turning off taps, making sure there's no leaks in the pipes, have like water tanks installed. All right. Fishing methods, well, those are various techniques in order to catch a fish. So you have like a commercial type of fishing method, which fishermen will use when they have to catch in abundance. And then there's like just for survival, like for instance, hand fishing, if it's just for one person or their family. Spear fishing as well. Trawling, dredging are the more commercial types. Trawling is you have two boats that basically have a large net attached to the boat. And when those boats are moving, it's going to basically drag into the water and pick up, well, the net is going to catch whatever fish is in a large area of water. Dredging is when you actually have something that is going to go into the seabed. So you go into the bottom of the sea and it's going to basically, when they say dredge, they're going to drag a large kind like a scraper, and that is to collect more like the bottom dwellers, more like um mussels, those kind of seafoods. So it tends to scrape the bottom and pick up the organisms that are at the base of the sea. Pots are just simply like for one person or for a family, basically using pots to capture a fish, right? Like not commercial, more like for one home, one household. Methods of purifying water would be, for instance, you have distillation and you have the you have the whole water purification setup, which would involve screening. You have to screen the water to make sure there's no large objects. Then you have the sedimentation. Small sediments that may be in the water will settle to the bottom. Then you filtrate the water where the water passing through a mesh or tiny pebbles, which will basically filter any kind of waste that is still in the water or tiny debris. And then you have the stage where you're going to apply chlorine, which will kill any kind of microorganism that is in the water, right? You call it chlorination. And then afterwards, you will basically collect the water. So those are methods, those are the steps you have to learn for the purification. The household methods would simply be like boiling the water, adding you could add chlorine, small amounts. You have to use a ratio. You could also use bleach, and you could use those filter jugs, right? Those are at home methods. Now, in this particular topic, you have the effects of pollution on aquatic life. So you must know what is eutrophication. Eutrophication is when you have a buildup or abundance of algae growing in the surface of water, and that is because of nitrates and phosphates. Those are fertilizers, those are natural minerals. When farmers use those, it is going to leach through the soil and enter the ocean, any kind of water body. And when that enters the water, it causes algae. Algae is a plant that grows in water, and it grows abundantly with those minerals. So if that covers the surface of the water, then you're not getting photosynthesis taking place because it's blocking off sunlight. And there's a ripple effect. There's a lot of things that takes place. You're going to have aquatic organisms dying. You're going to have a buildup of microorganisms and these kind of things. Pesticides and oil spills are also very harmful to the aquatic life. Pesticides, remember, you have toxic chemicals which could enter the fish or any aquatic organism, not just fish. It could harm sea turtles. And the thing is, when you consume food that contains pesticides, it can also disrupt your bodily functions. Oil spills too can be very toxic to the aquatic organisms, and it can move up a food chain. Simply when someone buys fish that has been in polluted water or in an area that has oil spill, you too can actually be harmed by the pollutant. Water safety devices are tools used to prevent drowning. So you have like inflatable tubes, you have the life raft, jackets that will keep you floating. Chemical, well, you have to know the chemical and physical properties of water as well. I'll post up a table with those for you to take down. The conditions for flotation. So there are two, well, you have to know this type of force called upthrust that will keep, that is what is directed upwards. Like for instance, if you have a boat or any kind of flotation device, upthrust is the force that is acting from the ocean towards the object that is floating. So that will keep it afloat. There's density to learn, there's Archimedes' principle, and there's the Plimsoll line. So those three in particular I will post up, right? I have never seen a Plimsoll line question. So it's not to say that that might come, but you need to run through everything, even though something haven't come in years. You never know it comes. So I'll post those for you all to take down. Then lastly, the navigational devices used at sea. So you have the compass, you have sonar, you have radar, and then you have the GPS, right? That could prevent getting lost in sea. Also know if there's any threat coming towards the vessel. So Let's look at a multiple choice question, not a multiple, a paper two question on water. Don't forget the water cycle also will tie in with this, right? Even though you're not seeing it in this breakdown here, the water cycle is something that you learn in primary school. You remember you have to look at the arrows carefully and remember the process names. The process names would be like evaporation, condensation. So you all are going to work on this one, right? You have various things. They're asking about pollution, they're asking about the water cycle. All right, so read it through and write down your answers, and we'll correct shortly. Any questions, by the way, with water? All right, so next, let's say I'll give you about 5 to 8 minutes to work on this one. It's short answer questions as well. All right, so let's correct. Number one. Amelia is studying the water cycle and she draws the following diagram. A, part 1, identify the processes represented by the arrows A, B, and C. All right, so Kajal, what are the processes A, B, and C?
Condensation, precipitation, and evaporation.
Excellent. All right, remember if you see an arrow leaving the tree, that will be transpiration. And then if you see something that an arrow pointing towards soil, that will be percolation. So those are two other processes. Sometimes you see well surface runoff is something you would see like an arrow leaving the mountain. All right, look out for those as well. Part two. State two uses that Amelia may have for water other than for drinking. Gabriella.
For cleaning and washing clothes.
Cleaning. All right, for bathing and also for washing clothes, for cooking, for gardening. All right. Part three. Suggest one reason why, after drinking untreated river water, Amelia's cousin became very sick. Janice? All right, not hearing from Shanice. All right, so
For
what
some
makes
reason,
it?
my unmute button wasn't showing up.
All right, I'm hearing you right now.
I was saying untreated river water may contain bacteria and pathogens.
Very good. It contains some kind of waterborne illness. And waterborne diseases would be things like cholera, typhoid, right? You could also say gastro as well, gastroenteritis. All right, part four. Name two methods that Amelia's community can use to treat the river water to make it suitable for drinking. Giovanni?
They can either boil the water or disinfect the water by adding small amounts of bleach to the water.
Very good. All right, so adding bleach, adding chlorine to disinfect as well. All right, so those are the common methods. Some people even say, like, well, this might not be in a CXE marking scheme, but if the water is in like a clear glass container, you could place it in direct heat, like direct sunlight, because ultra high, ultraviolet rays tend to also get rid of bacteria, but it mightn't be as intense. So I would refrain from those. I would just stick to the boiling and adding chlorine and small amounts of bleach. Part B. Amelia's community is surrounded by a very large forest. The residents are very concerned about rumors that a logging company plans to cut the forest for lumber and to build factories. Part 1. State one effect the cutting of the forest will have on the cycle. So remember with the trees, you have to talk about the process of transpiration, right? Plants or trees, they give off water vapor through their leaves. So if you cut the trees, then transpiration process is going to decrease and there's less water vapor being returned to the atmosphere. All right, so that would have been the answer. You could say it very concisely as well. You could say one effect would be a disturbance in transpiration. Right? Anything else?
Miss, I talk about interception, miss.
And how, okay, how so?
Miss, I say cutting of the forest will decrease the amount of interception occurring due to the lack of tree cover, miss.
All right, that's good. I could see percolation being affected because with the tree, remember the roots grow into the soil, and that would have caused a lot of spaces for the water to drain or percolate. So if you look at it in that angle as well, that's also an answer. And part two, the logging company plans to plant trees which are poisonous to many of the local herbivores to replace those which were cut down. State one way in which this would affect the food web in the forest. Right? So, let me see. Cherise?
Said there will be no food for carnivores, which are dependent on these herbivores for their survival.
Yeah. Right? If it is the plant trees that are poisonous to many of the local herbivores, then if herbivores were to die, the carnivores or the tertiary consumers will not have a food source. So they will eventually die. All right, see? In order to control flooding in the lowlands, the government built a large lake, which is a dam, near Amelia's home. A considerable amount of hydroelectric power is now produced by this dam to replace several disease-burning power stations. Part 1. State 1 benefit to the environment of using hydroelectric power. So that is when they tie in fossil fuels and alternative sources there. That part would fall under alternative sources of energy. So you have to look at wind and solar, hydroelectric. So basically, when you use those types of energy supplies, the benefit will be there's no harmful emissions. All right, no harmful emissions or no air pollution. Anything else?
Miss, a reduction of greenhouse gases.
A reduction of greenhouse gas. Very good. Part 2. Identify one negative effect on the local environment of building the dam. All right, Cherise. We have a Shanice. We have two Cherise. So I will call on Cherise Kalu.
Reservoirs behind a dam can lead to higher greenhouse gas emissions.
Now remember, the one that they built is a hydroelectric. So that was the benefit. It does not release greenhouse gas. So the negative effect of building the dam, remember, if you're building a dam, you're going to destroy a lot of natural habitats. You're going to remove a lot of marine or aquatic organisms out of its place, right? So that is, you could say, destruction of marine organisms, habitats. What else?
Miss, deforestation.
Deforestation, yeah. What about noise pollution? With the construction of this setup, it is going to have a lot of noise. A lot of people do argue with well, mostly the wind energy. If you're living close to those turbines, you tend to hear a lot of noise being generated, which could affect sleep and these things. All right, but you can stick to like an environmental. They say the negative effect on the local environment. They talk about the habitat of the marine organisms being destroyed, trees being cut down. All right, and part 3, Oh, you know what else you could say? Large dams, when you have large areas of water, it tends to have a spread of mosquito-borne disease as well, because they have it's settled water. It's water that is stationary, so it will have like a lot of mosquitoes laying eggs and so on. Right, last one. State one way the large lake or dam may affect the water cycle. Who didn't answer? Sharda?
Yes, I had increase in evaporation, which means more water vapor enters the atmosphere, which will lead to increase in rainfall.
Very good. So you actually talk about two ways there, so you could cut it down. So one way basically increase in evaporation, right? Large areas of water is large, more water vapor being produced, because when that water in the liquid form converts into water vapor, you're going to have more that is traveling through the air. So you can even say that, and then you could say increase in in precipitation because of the large amounts of water vapor being evaporated. All right, so you all are good with water. The last topic, fossil fuels and alternative sources of energy. So you see how they could tie in the boat. With this one, you have to know what is a fossil fuel? So fossil fuels is formed from dead plants and animals over millions of years that were exposed to heat and pressure in the Earth's crust. That would turn into a very carbon rich or energy rich type of material, which could be in various forms. It could be in oil form, it could be a gas form, petroleum gas. It could be like coals and something called peat. So once humans can extract those, they can use it to convert into a usable energy source, which we get electricity from. We use it for electricity. So what we have noticed, there's a lot of harmful gas emissions, a lot of greenhouse gases being emitted, and that has contributed to, well, the greenhouse effect, where you have more of the greenhouse gases redirecting sunlight into the earth, which is causing global warming. All right, and with that, you have a lot of weather disasters. You have a lot of frequent storms, flooding, melting of the ice cap, and it's a whole ripple effect there. So you must know your types of fossil fuels. You must also know the variables that affect solar and wind. Well, before you go into the wind energy, what are the types of alternative sources? So they are leaning into the biogas for cars or biodiesel. Um, Caribbean countries tend to rely on solar because of the light intensity, and some countries they rely on geothermal or hydroelectric sources of energy. All right, and also we rely on wind as well because of the Caribbean, that type of environment. We get a lot of the um, wind and sun, so that we are able to harvest those too. The problems associated with the use of fossil fuels, remember, it's a non-renewable. There are so many countries that used to have abundance of it, but over time it declines. Because it takes millions of years to form it, sooner or later the supply is going to be used up. Then you have, well, the environmental effects. Right, you have appraise the extent that alternative energy sources can be used in the Caribbean. So these are the ones that we use. We use solar cells. We have it in some calculators, some cars, they use solar energy. A lot of people have those solar panels installed so that it could warm their water. They use it as solar as heaters as well. And this topic, yeah, this topic is a short topic. The ones that you have a lot of subtopics would be water and terrestrial and electricity. Those three, you have a lot of theory there. All right, so let's look at a past paper question on fossil fuels. All right, so this, I believe it have two parts here. So working on this part first, we'll correct and then we'll switch to the next screen. I'll give you about 5 minutes for this one. Shouldn't take you too long. Feel free to ask any questions in between. All right, so you notice the first part, they actually combine energy with fossil fuels here. So there's a lot of topics that you could interchangeably be put together in this paper. So you have electricity, you have conservation of energy, fossil fuels. All right, so part A deals with light energy is converted to another type of energy when green plants make food. Part 1. What kind of energy is stored in this food? So everyone should have chemical energy. Part 2. What substance is combined with carbon dioxide during photosynthesis? So it's carbon dioxide plus water. Those two are combined. All right, don't go and put light energy here. Don't put chlorophyll, right? Those are just conditions. But when this talking about substances, you'll have to mention the gas as well as the water. All right, part B. Describe how plants and animals may become fossil fuels. All right, so let's hear from Robert. How you describe that?
Yes, I say after plants and animals die, they turn into fossil fuels. This occurs when dead and decaying plants and animals are exposed to heat and pressure inside the earth. After millions of years, it turns them into fossil fuels.
All right. For 2 marks, yeah, that's sufficient. All right. Part C. Country X is a flat tropical island. The electricity generating company in Country X uses a petroleum-based fuel. Name 2 alternative sources of energy that can be used for electricity generation in this country. Right? Remember when they say tropical and or Caribbean, you lean towards solar as well as wind sources of energy. Those two are the alternatives there. Right, so you had, right, part, this is just one part of the question, just D to finish off here.
Miss, why did say for say wind and solar energy?
Yes, wind and solar. All right, so for the last one, Padi, for each alternative source named and see above, give one disadvantage which may cause the electricity generating company to resist using the alternative source of energy identified. So, like for instance, what if you're saying, well, solar? What is the disadvantage of using solar?
Miss solar energy depends on the amount of sunshine again from this for the day, miss.
Yes, because of a lot of weather fluctuations. Remember, it won't be consistent, so it's not reliable. In other words, so that's a disadvantage. It's unreliable due to the fluctuations in weather patterns. And remember, you only have a certain time. You have well, the peak hours are for sunshine. Remember, it rises at least 6. Those things, it have little fluctuations, but you'll have the peak time, which is very short, a very short time, which will be like in the early morning and late afternoon. Then you have, well, okay, for wind, what is the disadvantage of using wind? Similar to the sunlight, with wind.
It's a flat country, so it won't have any peaks to get plenty wind.
All right, so you could say that it is also difficult to basically capture the wind energy if there's not much of the different fronts that are coming into the island based on, like, for instance, what you mentioned with the geography of the land. If it's flat, it's harder to really get that large amount of air mass flowing so that it could be captured. So it's hard to capture in flat land. Also, due to weather changes, it can fluctuate as well. So it's not a reliable resource or readily available type of alternative energy. So hear those words. It's unreliable, not readily available, and it's difficult to capture. Those are basically 3 different points there. So now that we finished the topics, all right, I would just want to pause. Yes.
Miss, for solar energy, miss, you could say that it costly too, miss.
Yeah, to set it up. No, to actually do the setup, it costly. But afterwards it is easier to maintain. But yes, difficult. The process of doing the setup is costly. But the maintenance is cheaper than if you're using fossil fuels. Okay, so we are going to go to the drive. I just want to redirect you before I could jump into paper ones. I it's always good to just go to like the most recent paper. All right, so now with your device, you will go. Now I hope that everyone is added. If you're not getting access, you just let me know. You're going to the past paper 2 folder. All right, so I notice it's June. It was a June paper. June 2021. That's last year's paper. We are going to pinpoint now. Energy is coming. We have conservation of energy. So you have number 1 to do. Right? You notice it have a momentum question here, calculation. So all of number 1, which involve energy and electricity. So Patsy have a little circuit. You have a graph. Right? Remember, question 1 is a graph kind of question. And then you have food additives. So that would be like food preservation. So question 2 do pertain to you. You have to know that. Question 3 don't pertain to you. That is acid and base. They say that not coming, so we will skip that one. Question 4 pertains to you because that is terrestrial environment. So most of this paper pertains to what is coming. And 5, because that is all terrestrial. And you have a little about fossil fuels there. Yeah. 6, you have plastic, you have water, you have aquatic environment. So you're doing everything on this paper except question 3. Yeah, everything. Everything except question 3. Right? Everybody have access to their papers. I'm gonna get some feedback.
Yeah, miss.
All right, I seen somebody thumbs up. Okay, so you're going to work on it as quickly as you can. I will give you until, let's see, boy. I kind of have to make it fast. Let's say about half 2. Half 2, we'll correct them. All right. So I'll check back half 2. right, just checking back. What number you all reached? Just give me an idea. Each person can tell me what number they are on.
4.
This is number 4.
Number 4.
All right, I could see the graph taking up some of the time. So I will correct. I could give you 5 extra minutes. I will correct up to 4. And I will stop for a break. You can always finish off the other 2. The answers I will post up. All right, I'll go through 1 to 4 next 5 minutes. All right, so I believe we have enough time there to finish 3 questions. Remember, you had to leave out question 3. All right, so let's go through the answers very quickly. Correct yourself as you go. And you could ask questions. If you need to share your answer, you could always raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay, so number 1. You all seeing the screen?
Yes, miss.
State 2 forms of energy. So again, you could have many answers here. I chose kinetic and heat energy. Figure 1 shows a spring at rest and a spring when stretched. Explain what happens to the energy in a spring when it is stretched. So this is now the spring have the ability to recoil and coil or stretch. So potential energy is being converted into elastic potential. So that's when it's actually stretching, elastic potential. Since it is being converted, then work is being done. All right, any answers you would like to share here? All right. Figure 2 shows a collision between 2 cars. One of the vehicles of mass 35,000 kg is moving at a velocity of 25 km per hour. Using the formula, P is equal to M by V, so they give you the formula. Calculate the momentum before it collides with another vehicle. So you just simply multiply the two, 875,000 kg km per hour. Remember, put your units, show your working. Figure 3 shows a simple circuit. Name the parts 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is ammeter, 2 resistor, 3 voltmeter. Now always remember how to install the ammeter and the voltmeter. If you notice, ammeter is wired in a series circuit and voltmeter is in a parallel circuit. All right, for this one, 2 resistors are connected in parallel. This combination is then placed in a circuit and the current passes into. The combination is measured for various potential differences across the circuit. So they give you voltage and ampere. You have to fill in the resistance in ohms. So using the formula, R is equal to V over I, complete table 1 by calculating the total resistance at each interval of voltage and current. So when you divide it, you realize it's 2 for each one. So you have to calculate the total, you just add the previous one. All right, and the graph, well, that will take some time. You're just plotting current against potential difference. So current will go on the y-axis, potential difference will go on the x-axis. And they say draw the line of best fit. So everybody should know how to do a best fit line. You could take a picture and send me the graph on WhatsApp so I could take a look. And make sure you label the axes. Make sure you have a scale and a title. All right, 6 marks is awarded to various things in that graph. Part 4. Using table 1 and the graph, describe the trend observed in this circuit as potential difference changes. Now, if you notice, as the current increases, so did the potential difference. It also increased. And that's just 1 mark. All right, for people who plotted the graph for part 5, you had to determine the current passing in the circuit at a voltage of 3.5 volts. So in your graph, make sure you do your dotted lines. You go to 3.5 and then you go across. Right, so you're looking for 3.5. You take your ruler, you go where the line intercept the best fit. You then travel across to get your current. So who got that answer out? Anyone plot the graph?
Miss, I got it to be 1.8.
1.8, and what is the unit?
Ampere.
Ampere. Make sure and put your unit. All right. And make sure you draw your line in the graph to show you're working. Okay, moving on to question 2 now. Name 2 food additives. So you have the MSGs or monosodium glutamate. You also have food coloring. And then you have to state a function of each type of food additive. Now, MSGs is to enhance flavors. Coloring is just is the aesthetic of the food to make it more palatable, more attractive. B, define the term food preservation. Food preservation is to enhance the shelf life of a food and keep it free from microorganisms. And then 2, name the method of food preservation to use to make raisins. Now, raisins is similar to like how you let me see what else. Well, prunes, that's basically dehydration. You're removing all water from it. They dehydrate a lot of foods now. Mushrooms. All right. And C. Jill bought a jar of guava jam, which she used a few times and then placed into the refrigerator. After 3 months, Jill found a jar of jam while cleaning the refrigerator. To her surprise, the jam was still edible. Explain the method of food preservation used in making of jam. Now remember with jam, you're adding a lot of sugar. So when you add sugar to the guava, that will actually cause the concentration of water to change. So the water will move from a high area to a low concentration. So it will leave the guava, it will leave the jam, water will leave the jam, and as a result, if there's no moisture, no water, microorganisms cannot live or grow. All right. Then the next part would explain how the refrigerator assisted in the preservation of the jam. Since the temperature is very low, that will inhibit the growth of microorganisms. All right, so, or we could say deactivates the enzymes in the microorganisms. That could also work there. Part D. Mario works in a fast food restaurant. On the door of the food preparation building, there are several flyers reminding staff to wash their hands before handling food. Briefly explain why it is important to wash hands before handling food. So remember with personal hygiene, hands are exposed to many microorganisms since it makes direct contact with objects and surfaces. Washing hands with soap will remove the oils and the buildup of microorganisms so it does not contaminate any of the foods. All right, everyone good so far?
Yeah, Miss.
All right, doable so far, nothing difficult. All right, so let's jump to 4. All right, soil is formed through physical, chemical, and biological action. That's what we call weathering. Name one method of physical action in soil formation. Well, I had freeze-thaw. Now, if you go to the classroom, I post something with physical and chemical weathering. Weathering of soil. They would see the various types, right? And then you have to know how to explain it. Now, freeze-thaw. Describe the method of physical action. So you have to describe your action there. Now for freeze-thaw, water expands when it freezes to form ice. If water collects in cracks and rocks, then freezes, the ice which forms will make the crack bigger. Eventually, pieces of rock will break away. All right, you could have other answers here. One component of fertile soil, you could talk about nitrates, phosphates. You could just put the word mineral. All right? Or the word humus could work as well. B.
Miss, you could say microorganisms.
Yeah, you could say microorganisms. Yeah. Because of the humus, they will be there to break down the humus to cause the minerals to be recycled. So yeah. Table 2 shows 3 soil samples and their associated aeration, moisture content, and nutrient content. So based on the information, you have to select which one is clay, sand, and loam. Anytime you see it have a high aeration, low moisture content, so high aeration means have plenty air space. And if it have plenty air space, the water will drain quickly, so it hardly have moisture in the soil, and the nutrients will strip away with the moisture. So when the water is flowing, it takes the nutrient with it. So therefore, that would have been sand, right? You don't use sand for agriculture. Clay would be Z, low aeration, high moisture, because of there's no air spaces, more water being retained in the soil. All right, and then well, loam would be a combination. It have medium aeration, medium moisture, medium fall. Part C. Figure 4 shows a comparison of plant growth after 6 weeks in 2 different soil samples. So they give you Y and Z. And every 2 weeks, you're seeing some changes. Right? And this was from here, Y and Z. So since Y is loam, you notice Y have greater for the inches, it's higher. So the plant grew higher in Y. So you have to basically describe the trend. So a trend is, it can be seen there's greater inches in soil Y compared to Z after every 2 weeks. The incline in plant Y moved steadily while the incline in Z moved slowly. All right, you'll see that. You're sounding tired already. I could tell from
Miss,
the
Miss, I say plants were at least 10 inches after 2 weeks in soil Y, but in soil Z, plants did not reach 10 inches even after 6 weeks.
All right, now you have to do a general trend. Don't pinpoint one information. General trend. So general trend is Y have greater inches than Z. So you put that into a sentence, a descriptive sentence, right?
Yeah, miss.
Anything with pattern and trends, they do, like for instance, they ask you about a pattern with this graph, right? A general trend. Don't just pick 1 point, 2 point. All right. Using the information in both figure 4, explain the difference in trends of, so you have to explain the trend of plant growth in soil sample Y and Z. So you have to talk about the components now. Now, since Y is loam soil, it has the best combination of all soils. So it have a combination of sand, clay, and loam with the addition of minerals from humus. This enriches the soil and provides an adequate medium for plants to grow healthily. It also gets enough water and air within the soil. All right, so all of this is terrestrial environment. All right, identify which of soil sample Y or Z could possibly be volcanic soil. So volcano is in terrestrial too. What you learn with volcanoes, they emit hydrogen sulfide, volcanic ash, and volcanic ash is actually a mixture of rock and minerals. So that can also cause healthy plant growth. So that would have been seen in Y, not Z. Right, so that is the first three. You remember you have the other two to work on. We are going to pause for a break again, right? You all should get some coffee. You may be getting a little tired at this point, sitting down. So we will return at 3:10. All right, 3:10, and then we will start the multiple choice practice. All right, so see you then. All right, so let's continue again. We're moving on to the paper ones, multiple choice. All right, some people coming in. Everybody hearing me? Everybody's, let me share the screen. Now, I just want to run through some repetitive multiple choice questions so that you have an eye out for them and you'll remember the answers. All right, so this item refers to the following diagrams which display seeds under different conditions in 4 test tubes plugged with cotton wool. Right, in which test tube is germination most likely to take place? Alia, what was the answer for this? I'm sure you would have seen it somewhere.
Miss B.
B, yes, and the reason being it have the optimum temperature 28, you have air, you have moisture, so you have the requirements or the conditions necessary for germination. When you look at the others, dry cotton, 0 degrees, boiled water, you know those are not conditions. All right, next one. Sharda, can you read the question on the left? Right, I need to hear. I want you all participating for this part. Who wants to do this one? Cherise? Kalu?
EMS, the answer is C.
All right. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen, while anaerobic respiration does not. So that's true. So in the event they put false instead of the word true, you always have to be very careful, all right, with the multiple choice. And this one always come, which of the following formula is used to calculate mechanical advantage? What is the correct answer there?
It's A.
A, load over effort. Good. 31. What type of energy is the athlete using to jump over the hurdle? Casual.
Kinetic.
Very good. C. 29 refers to the following diagram of a spanner. The spanner is an example of Janice,
A lever.
a lever. Right? And the following data were obtained in an experiment investigating the soil pH in which different crops grow best. Which crop grew best in neutral soil? So neutral is 7. So you're going with 6 to 8. All right, that's B. This one as well, you always tend to see this question. In which of the label positions is the effort usually applied? So effort is where you will place your hand, which will be at B, right? Region 2. 51, Giovanni.
D. Satellites.
Satellite, right. Satellites will orbit a planet. Planet is orbit the sun. Very good. And this one, the direction in which the plane is moving, is, always remember, is Y to X. Some people is to go and put X to Y because they're seeing air in and air out. All right. Once the air moves in and the air is out, it is going forward. So it moves from Y to X. All right. 56, Cherise.
Misconduction.
Very good. C, because it's a metal rod. Very good. It's a solid. And 58, Earth is labeled. So remember what what the acronym stands for. My very excited. So W will be Earth. All right. And Saturn is labeled. Saturn will be the one with the ring, which is Z. Right. My very excited mother just served us nachos and pizza. So that is how to remember the order of the planets. Now, these were topics that came in last year's paper. It was very close in terms of the topics. If you notice that you all still have 5 and 6 to complete in the past paper. I will post up the answers for those, right? The 2019 paper had a lot of section A topics about the body systems like reproduction and digestion, skeletal system, and right. So these are just previous topics. So getting close to the multiple choice. This is just a little guide. Now, a lot of people struggle to actually study, like to sit down and study. That is more difficult. To get you to sit down and to get yourself to study is actually more challenging than when you're actually studying. So you always want to find a quiet spot, even if you could go to probably a library. If your home is loud, remember you could always go. There's libraries in each community. People don't make use of it at all. But sometimes you need that silence. You need that, and sometimes when you're out of the home environment, you tend to, because you are not in that comfort zone, you will actually sit down and do something. Always start. So once you have all your study materials given, you have all the resources, it's just to begin. Have a plan of what you want to complete. Use like the Pomodoro technique where you study in time gaps. You have a focus time. So if it's 45-minute session and you take a break, or 30-minute sessions and take a 15-minute break, however you are comfortable with, you use like a little timer and really sit down within that time frame and complete something. Even studying with a group of friends, of course, who is on the same page and who wants to study and who will not get distracted with each other, can help as well. Organize your work, organize your notes by subject, and use highlighters to highlight formulae, key terms, definitions. Always start early, seeing that you have extra time. Have like pretend like you're in school. You start maybe at 9, you finish at 2, take a good rest, come back at it in the night, like 6 o'clock till what till however 12 o'clock, whichever time. Always get lots of sleep, right? Don't go whole day, whole night. That's humanly impossible. It really wears you out. Eat well and exercise. So get some walks in between. Don't just sit behind a screen like today. Self, you would have be very sedentary. So after this session, just take a good rest, take a walk. Um, Try to get some movement in, And go into the test confident and relax. Don't second guess yourself or worry too much. Right? So I just shared with you some ways to beat exam stress. When you get the slides, you could look at it, just browse. And always remember, every accomplishment starts with the decision to try. So once you try, once you prepare, and once you use your time, you will see the results. All right, now that is just to end the slideshow. I will post it. I am going to delve into the Google Drive. Any questions? Right, so when you go into the drive, you're going into the paper ones now. And you're going to do the recent paper. The most recent one that I have here is the 2020 Jan. Right, you will see Jan 2020 paper 1. So I'll give you half an hour. I'll check it back, let's say about 4 o'clock till 4. With the repeats, you might finish faster. So I'll check in between to see what number you reach, and then we will correct it. Everybody getting access to the paper? If not, please raise your hand, please unmute yourself and let me know. All right. So try your best at the multiple choice and don't use any notes. All right, so what number you all reach? Anybody finish?
I finished, miss.
All
Yes,
right,
miss.
raise your hand if you finish. All right, looks like the majority of you. So we can correct. Right, you'll notice a lot of repeats. All right, so just to make sure these questions stick with you, I will invite you all to read the question. We'll go with the attendance list. Read the question aloud and also give your answer. All right, this is very important. You never know when you're in the exam room. Somehow you hear the words in your head and you're able to recall it. So we'll start with Aliyah, number 1.
Energy for cell activities is produced in the mitochondria.
All right, good. Number 2, Cherise.
The structure labeled X is the nucleus.
Very good. 3. Now the paper won't be colored. This one so somehow it came out with color. So just be careful. Always remember nucleus is just one circular structure. 3. Gabriella.
Which of the following structures is associated with sexual reproduction? C. Flower.
Very good. Number 4, Giovanni.
The condom is an example of which type of birth control? B. Barrier.
Number 5, Kajal.
A vasectomy is an example of which type of birth control method? Surgical.
Right, and for the males, tubal ligations for females. All right, Robert.
Which of the following sexually transmitted infections are caused by viruses? I put D.
All right, 1, 2, and 3. Yes, virus. Actually, syphilis, gonorrhea, and syphilis are caused by bacteria. Herpes and HIV and AIDS would be viruses. So it's obviously 1 and 2, A. All right, Shanice. Anthony.
The products of photosynthesis are glucose, oxygen, carbon dioxide.
Products, yeah.
A.
1 and 2, yes, glucose and oxygen. Cherise.
Primary consumers feed on bee producers.
Very good. All right, back on top.
Excuse me, I think Shardak wanted you to let in.
Oh, yes. Yes. You could go ahead.
Which of the following enzymes digest fats? B.
Lipase. Next.
Which of the following arteries carry the oxygenated blood? D. Pulmonary artery.
Very good.
Which of the following blood groups is known as the universal recipient? D. O.
Recipient means it could receive from anyone. However, O is a universal donor. Donor meaning they could give give anybody blood. But in terms of receiving, they could only receive from somebody who is O. So the universal recipient here is AB. They could receive from A, B, and O. All right, recipient means receiver. Number 12.
Which of the following bones is not located in the leg? E.
Ulnar. 13.
Which of the parts labeled ABCD is a hinge joint? C.
Very good. Elbows and knees, hinge joint. Next person.
The products of respiration are, I put B.
Yes. Well, not oxygen. Remember, oxygen is a reactant, not a product. You use oxygen to break down glucose to be water and carbon dioxide. B. Sharda, 15. I noticed the internet giving some problems today.
Yes, sir. Because I had D first one.
All right, which of the following pollutant gases has an affinity for the hemoglobin in red blood cells? That would be carbon monoxide. Very good. Right, Shanice.
Which of the following is not an excretory organ? The stomach.
Correct. Therese.
Which of the following are characteristics of sensory organ? Beside D.
Receive stimuli, contains specialized receptor cells, and they detect changes in the environment. Yeah, all of them correct. Right, back on top.
The function of the iris in the eye is to control the amount of light entering.
Very good. C.
Which of the following is secreted by the endocrine system? I had C.
Endocrine would be your glands, right. So you have now hormones, and the pancreas is one of the glands that secrete both hormone as well as enzyme, because pancreatic juice contain enzymes. And remember, the pancreas is release insulin and glucagon. So that is the only organ or gland that can work for both of them. So we will have to go with, yeah, C, 1 and 2. Not 1 and 2. Why did I say bile? It's enzymes and hormones. So that is which one? D. However, pertaining to integrated science, you all yes, you all would have learned that the pancreas is secret pancreatic juice. All right, so D is the answer here. Next person, 20.
Which of the following are stages of the life cycle of a mosquito? I had D. Egg, pupa, larva.
Yeah. 21.
Which of the following conditions are most likely to encourage the growth of microorganisms? On food, B.
Warm and 3, damp, yes. 22.
The use of another organism to control a pest is referred to as C, biological control.
Yes, C. 23, Sharda.
Solution of molecules with any substance results in the transfer of energy by C, conduction.
Conduction, very good. 24, Shanice.
Liquids and gases normally expand when heated and contract when cooled. This behavior explains the working of a B thermometer.
Correct. 25,
Which of the following conditions are most likely to cause a person to produce the greatest amount of sweat? Let's say B, hot and humid.
very good. 26, back on top.
The unit of energy is B, joules.
Very good, Joule. Remember, power will be what, right? Power is what is energy. All right, 27.
The energy conversion sequence is most likely to occur in a B car engine.
All right, so they didn't have the arrows, but they mean chemical, which would be the gas, and then they use an electrical, which would be from the battery, which will move into mechanical, causing all the parts, the components to function, which will then generate heat. All right, so this one is now they say most likely. So the two that you eliminate is A and C, and then you're left with B and D. Diesel power generator. Now if it's diesel powered, it won't be used, it will be using the energy from the diesel itself, which is the gas. So therefore this one would have been B. Right? Anyone had D? All right. Robert said he had D. Okay. All right.
The formula P is equal to mv is used to calculate C momentum.
Very good. 29.
Which of the following does not conduct electricity? C. Plastic.
Correct. 30.
Voltage equals A current multiplied by resistance.
Very good. Think of VIR. V is equal to I by R. So I is current, right? 31.
Which of the following is a safety device? A fuse.
Fuse. 32. Shanice.
Which of the following is the first action which should be taken to prevent an electrical shock? Turn off the electricity, B.
Yes, turn off the electricity.
Which of the following is not needed to start a fire? D,
Nitrogen, correct?
The purpose of the protective gear is to shield the welder's eyes. B.
B.
Which of these food items would best help to prevent constipation? C. White bread.
Lettuce, right? Best help. You think of your vegetables, green vegetables, they have a lot of fiber. White bread, if it was like wheat bread or whole grain bread, that will have fiber, but lettuce is the best answer there. 1 second, 1 moment. Okay, so let's continue. We almost finished with the paper. All right. Who's doing number 36?
Which of the following machines is most likely to make loading of a truck easier? D. Inclined plane.
Inclined plane. 37.
Which of the following is an advantage of using plastics? B.
Non-corrosive, yeah. You see those that have that bold font? Is that to really sit down a little bit? All right, 38.
Which of the following metals is the least reactive? B. Copper.
Silver. When you go to the reactivity series, where's silver?
Oh, miss, I didn't see silver, miss.
Silver and gold is at the bottom, even though it's probably not in this list. Let's see if it here. It have gold, but then put silver. They're trying to make a little sentence from it too. So yeah, silver would have been at the bottom as well. It would have been silver and then gold. All right. A 39.
Bones act as levers while cartilage assists with B. Reducing friction at the joints.
Correct. 40. Shanice, I feel you falling asleep, you know.
I have a cell is described as diploid when D.
Diploid is when it gives, okay, the chromatin align at the equator of the cell. It divides to give that out. 4 daughter cell will have to be meiosis. It has the full chromosome number, C, because it taken the same chromosome as the parent, which is 23 pairs. So the daughter cell will have the 23 pair. All right, that is mitosis they're talking about it. 41.
The safety symbol indicates that a substance is corrosive. C.
Very good.
A solution with a pH of 5 is a weak acid.
Very good.
The left side of the heart has a thicker muscular wall in order to pump blood to the rest of the body.
Yes. B.
The structure labeled X is the C. Collecting duct capsule.
Well, the name of it is Bowman's. It does, the collecting duct is actually the one that the urine collects. The Bowman capsule is collect all the filtrate, so all of the excess water, salts, urea, and glucose. Glucose is collected at that point. So that is D, Bowman's.
Which of these components make cigarette smoking addictive? B. Nicotine.
Very good. Nicotine is a drug.
Antibiotics are chemicals that can safely be taken into the body. They do not harm human cells but they destroy C. Bacteria.
Very good. Antiviral is for virus, antifungal is for fungal, right? Just the word anti means against. All right. Next person.
Which of the following statements about the moon is correct? C. It is a satellite of the Earth.
Yes, it orbits the Earth. right? Planets orbit the sun. And remember, satellites orbit planet. There are satellites like the International Space Station. All right, this one is C. Remember, it had a lunar eclipse just the other day. I think it was last week Sunday. Shanice?
$48.
48, yeah.
Which type of joint is found at the knee in human beings? Hinge.
Hinge. All right. 49.
The display of a horizon on a vertical cross-section through the soil is termed the soil. See?
Profile, yes. Soil profile. So that is when you actually you're seeing the different layers of the soil. All right. A vertical cross section. All right, I'll go through it very quickly. Right. 50. Finely divided, partially decomposed organic matter found in the soil is called D. Humus. 51. Through which of these processes does the body rid itself of nitrogenous waste? A. Excretion. 52. The least effective way to purify water is? Now, this one again, least effective. So all of them are water purification. So which one you think is the least?
Miss filtration.
Some people's okay are here in filtration. Everyone had B? Yes, B, because remember when you're filtering something, now when you're distillating, you're boiling too. You're boiling the water, it evaporates, it cools, you collect the distillate. Chlorination, you're adding your chlorine, so you're killing microorganisms. But when you're filtering, you're just getting rid of little sediments that may have left in the water. 53. Which of the following is least likely to be a source of water pollution? So they say least likely here. So stormwater, untreated sewage, agricultural runoff from farms, effluent from industries. This now least likely, it'll have to be A, stormwater. 54. Which of the following is true about wind dispersed seeds? Right, they have feathery hairs which allow them to be taken great distances. A. 55. Which of the following is true about the greenhouse effect? So it is associated with carbon dioxide gas. It is caused by heat trapped in the atmosphere. So 2 and 3, C. 56. Which of the following gases is not believed to contribute to the increase in global temperature via the greenhouse effect? That will be oxygen. A. That is not a greenhouse gas. 57. Which of the following systems uses a non-renewable resource to generate electricity? That would be D. Nuclear power plants using radioactive elements. Right, that is non-renewable. 58. Which of the following is not considered an alternative source of energy? C. Gasoline. And 59. The weight of a body acts through a single point called the center of gravity. 60. The function of the marrow of long bones in the body is to? Marrow is to make red blood cells. B. How many people got 60? Oh, are you all okay? If you get within the 50s, raise your hand. Three hands went up. Now that's your goal, eh? 50s and up. If you're in the 40s, you have to go into this folder. So I see our next hand went up. Oh, the hand's going up. All right. Good job. First time you all did this paper? Or are you doing it again? What do no comments mean?
This is the first time I'm doing this paper, miss.
All right, first time. Okay. Now you will notice I have the when you go to the folder, you will also see the June 2020. But when you click on it, you will see answers, which I didn't want it, but this is what we have. This is what we have to work with. Um, Pretend as though you're doing it without the answers. You don't have to do this one right now. I actually want to do before we go, we will do the 2019 because this one have a lot of repeats as the Jan. So you're going to June 2019, paper one. Right, there's no answers in this. You should be able to finish it quickly because you would see the ones that you saw on the slides. So I will check you at about 4:45. There were 4:45. We can start correcting. And also you will notice it have questions pertaining to topics. If you like, this is a good practice for you. If I were you, go through these fossil fuels questions, multiple choice, and just so you know everything in topic. You answer a lot of questions based on it. Terrestrial environment, that is something you would want to practice, you know, water and aquatic, the topics that are coming. All right, so I'll see you when it's 4:45. All right, how many people still working? So go ahead and show your hands. All right, so now that everyone is finished, we can go ahead and correct that paper. Right, don't want to keep you all back too long. I know you all have your own preparation to do. Anybody have exam tomorrow? All right, so I'll just run through the answers, and then the ones that you get wrong, you let me know. Okay, so let's correct number 1. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, miss.
Number 1 is B. I'll call it out so we can go through it quickly. Number 2, C. Number 3, B. Number 4, C. 5, B. 6, A. 7, C. 8, A. 9, C. 10, A. 11, D. 12, C. 13, D. 14, D. 15, D. 16, C. 17, B. 18, A. 19, B. 20, B. 21, D. 22, B. 23, C. 24, A. 25, A. 26, C. 27, D. 28, B. 29, A. 30, D. 31, C. 32, A. 33, D. 34, D. 35, B. Everyone good so far?
Yeah, miss.
36, C. 37, B. 38, B. 39, D. 40, B. 41, C. 42, D. 43, C. 44, A. 45 is C. 46 is A. 47, D. 48, C. 49, B. 50, A. 51, D. 52, B. 53, D. 54, A. 55, C. 56, C. 57, A. 58, A. 59, D. And 60, D. Right, you all got those answers?
Yeah, miss.
All right, tally up your marks. Let's see how many people in the 50s show by raising your hand. 7 people. Okay. Excellent work, all of you. Now, I don't want to keep you all back too much. I will be posting up the answers to the paper 2 2021 paper. You all still had, remember, question 5 and 6 to work on. I am also going to post the PowerPoint so that you have that to refer to as a guide. Feel free, I will leave the group running. I will leave the WhatsApp group. All right. And if you have any questions, you could ask the group. That's not a problem. I will keep it till your exam. All right. So we have reached to the end of our crash course. I do thank you all for attending. I thank you all for being very punctual after your break time and lunch time. You all are on the road to success. Just keep at it. All right. Keep focused. Take your rest when you need to do so. That's very important. All right. And I wish you all the best in your exams and your other subjects as well.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Miss.
All right. You're welcome. All right. So I'm just going to organize the video for people who couldn't make it today. If you want the video too, just message me. All right then. Take care. Bye.